Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of the day that you're joining us. We want to say welcome. This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Today, I have with you a guest, my daughter, Lorissa Francois, and she'll be sharing with us. But before we start, let's pray. Father, we just thank you for this another beautiful day. Thank you for your grace. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your mercies. This is the day you have made, God, and we will rejoice and be glad in it. Whatever you have for us to do this day, Father, we will do it in your strength, in your wisdom, and under your anointing. I pray, Lord, that even as Lorissa shares, she will impact some life for you today. She would give them this strength. As she speaks, Father, they will know that they can have your strength. They can accomplish your purpose and plan for their lives. We give you praise in Jesus' name. Amen. Again, I want to say good morning, and I want to thank you for joining us today. It's amazing. As you know, my name is Lorissa Francois. I'm from God's Love Nest Foundation, and over the past 2 years, I've been sharing. God's Love Nest Foundation is a nonprofit organization ministering to families that are in crisis. And so the Lord asked me to come on 2 years ago to share with families his word, just a way of encouraging families. Over the past few weeks, months, myself and Brother Sean, we've been sharing. I've been sharing to women, and Brother Sean has been sharing to the men. And I thought to myself, it would be good having someone that's much younger than we are to share with the teens and even the adults, because sometimes, as adults, good morning, dear, good morning, Michelle, thank you for joining us. Sometimes as parents, there are things that we see in our teen and we kind of wondered, and sometimes we don't understand because the trends, the seasons that they're in, we're not in that same season, meaning this age is different from the way we were brought up. So there's so many questions sometimes as adults we may have, and many times as we talk with a younger individual, they may be able to answer those questions. So last week I said to myself, it would be good having someone younger coming on, and my daughter was coming home for spring break, and I said, I'll ask her to share. And when I called her, before I can ask her to share, she started sharing with me something that she shared in her class for the Black History Month. And I'm listening to her and I'm like, wow, this is awesome. This is powerful. When she completed sharing with me, I said to her, would you mind sharing with us? And she said, sure. And so today I introduce to you Lorissa Francois, my daughter, and she's going to tell you more about herself and what she does.
Okay, so as my mom said, my name is Lorissa Francois, and I am currently an English teacher at Union Alternative High School in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So, of course, being away from family can be hard at times, and I think the reason why my mom and I had this conversation was because these past couple of years, I'm only in my second year of teaching, but, still getting used to adulthood, what it looks like to, live on your own, to have family afar, to even have, boyfriends, friends, just, people afar from you, and just trying to figure out, okay, where I am right now, do I feel like I belong? Do I feel like emotionally I can handle this? Physically I can handle this? And just basically going through all of the thoughts that, any young adult will experience when they're finally deciding to take a step that may look a bit different, a step that, maybe it's something that you've always wanted to do, but it doesn't always feel right in the moment. And so just to kind of start off this conversation, when I called her, I was basically explaining how I kind of had an epiphany of some sort in a way. And what I was realizing was that in my time of teaching at Union Alternative, I loved it. So for those of you who may have heard of an alternative school, it doesn't have the negative connotation that you would normally bring with it. Yes, you may have some students who are dropouts or some students who had to leave to have, children and come back. But our program really works on building the social and emotional side of students. We have a lot of students that are dealing with whether it's unstable homing, whether it's ADD, ADHD, depression, schizophrenia, whatever the case is, a lot of them just realize that the regular school wasn't able to actually accommodate them and all the needs that they had. So at our school, we're able to have more of a one-on-one kind of relationship with our students. We have them for a long time, and we're able to develop a family. So with me, I love what I do because it's really based off of mentoring and counseling. It's being able to meet a child at their need and to let them to know that even if the regular school wasn't where you fit in, we have an alternative. There's no need to give up because we have an alternative here that can help you where you are. And so with that being said, I never thought I was going to stay in Tulsa. I did go to ORU, and I eventually ended up having a student teaching at the school that I'm now at. And just from that, doors were open, and I was able to get that position. But even while I was in the in-between, there was a lot of, okay, what do I do? Now that I'm waiting and I've put out my applications, do I stay in Tulsa? Do I go back to Virginia? Do I go to the East Coast? Do I go to the West Coast? There were so many questions, and for a while, I felt like God was telling me that it was still my time to be at my school so that I can continue to use my classroom as my mission field, my battlefield, basically making sure that I'm an advocate for everyone that steps in. And as much as I felt that in my heart, it was still hard because, as you know, as a teacher, our job never ends. Technically, there's always something you can do to become a better educator, but you also have to take care of yourself, and you also have to look at how am I taking care of myself outside of my school? And that was one of the biggest issues. So I know for a while it was hard because pretty much during like May of last year, I lost one of my really good friends. He was my best friend's brother. And during that time, I felt like I was trying to grasp onto every single person I knew at that time. I was trying to make sure I stayed in contact with my family, with my friends, with my boyfriend, with anybody that I knew, but everybody that was far. And that was hard for me. And I found myself pretty much, yes, I was in my school, working with my children, being there, but I found myself not being holistically present. And to me, it was something that was kind of hard to digest because it was basically like one day, it just started to be harder to wake up. Yes, I loved my school and I loved being there, but there was just something about that motivation, that energy that I once had that I realized was missing. And, it took me a while to realize, like, what is it? And what I had to come to terms with was the fact that I was so, scared of losing people because, my friend just passed away, that the entire time I was in another state where I should have been present in what I was doing, I was constantly looking back. I was constantly going back to the memories. I was constantly just reminding myself of who's not around or who I miss. And what I had to realize was that in order for me to truly be present in where I am and to actually make an impact that I'm supposed to, I had to slowly but surely kind of let those things go. And that sounds bad. I don't mean let go as in I'm just going to cut you off, we're not going to talk. But I had to realize basically the importance of being present in my purpose. So this is pretty much the entire conversation that I had with my mom. And what I realized is, God has given me right now the opportunity to be in classrooms and to advocate on behalf of those who are unseen or unheard, those who normally fall through the cracks, those who maybe have family situations or home situations or terminal illnesses that may brand them as lazy children or children who don't care or children who never want to go to school, but it's just the fact that they need support. And I had to realize the weight of my responsibility. A lot of my students being in my classroom is their only sense of sanity, is their only oasis. It's the only time they have somebody that cares enough to say, hey, what's going on right now? Or, hey, you know what? You look a little tired. How about you take a little nap, get some breakfast. We'll come back and I'll catch you up. People who can look at them as a human and understand that they are going through things and then nurture them with the counseling in the school afterwards. And so there was one time where, I was sitting down and I kind of got tired of feeling, I got tired of feeling down because, there were times where I have dealt with depression or anxiety, but through definitely going through counseling, through talking, through opening up, through, just allowing God to comfort me in certain areas, I was able to see that, there are some things that I can maybe control. So on days, instead of sitting there sulking because I miss everybody, what can I take from that emotion and use it to fuel elsewhere? And so literally one day, and this was even after church, because I remember it was really funny how sometimes God can talk to you about certain things. And then of course, pastor the next day just happens to reinforce that. And you're like, okay, God, I get it. Like, you're trying to talk to me. Mm-hmm. And so one thing that we talked about is like a lot of times the word purpose, we think it's something that's far beyond us or far greater than us. But sometimes it's just allowing ourselves to say, okay, on my daily walk, on my daily journey, am I making an impact somehow? And that can be little small acts of kindness, okay? So like sometimes when I bring my mandarin oranges to school and all my students see it and they're hungry and they want it as much as I know that was my breakfast, let me just give, let me just bless. Or even things as small as you're coming out of the grocery store, you see someone coming that can open the door for themselves, but you stand there, you greet them, you say, hello, good morning. And to some people, they're like, whoa, why are you so nice? But I started to realize that, impact or acts of kindness can be something that you do on a daily and something that's small. And it allowed me to realize, Lorissa, you are in charge of lives right now. And yes, it is valid for you to have emotions to miss certain people in your life, but you need to be present right now in your purpose. And what that means is God, even if I'm dealing with this emotionally, we're going to handle that. There's dealing time. There's going to be time where you deal with certain things, but my purpose and my responsibility in my classroom is to be there. And what I tell a lot of people is that in my work, yes, I'm an educator. Yes, I'm an advocate. I'm a counselor. I'm a mentor. But it's so important to make sure that when you are with your children, your kids, your students, that you are with them holistically, mind, body, spirit, like holistically. And I say that because with the way that a lot of things are happening in society, with the way that a lot of people are processing things, you never know how you just being present and talking with them during that time can maybe shift their personality. And so that's when I had to start to, when I literally sat down and said, okay, Lorissa, yes, you miss your friends. Yes, you miss your family, but there's going to be time when you can come back and meet them. I realized that you need to take that pain or whatever, that hurt, that sadness, and you need to pretty much translate that into something else. And after that, I realized that, you know what, my biggest thing that I can do right now is be present where I am, every person that I meet on a daily basis, every person that I encounter. Am I being intentional? Am I intentional about how I'm speaking? Am I intentional about the actions? Am I intentional about getting enough rest so that I can have enough energy in the morning to make sure that I can go throughout my classroom? And so for me, I think words of encouragement can just be, are you doing what you can with what you have right now and allowing God to do the rest? And the reason why I say that is because there's so many times where, like for me, they say, in high school, get good grades so you can go to college. Check. Okay, well, go to college, get good grades so you can get your dream job. We all know that that's not always the case, but that's another conversation for another time. So let's say you do get to the job that you want to after college, and then you're there and you're like, well, what now? And I think that was the issue that I saw and that I've seen with some of my friends, is that we're constantly on the move, never embracing what we've really gone through or what we're going through. And then when we finally get to that final destination, we feel a bit unfulfilled because we never truly embrace the process. And I think that's one thing I had to realize is I'm a schedule person. I'm more of a goal-oriented person. Let's check it off. Let's keep it going. But if you do that, sometimes it'll really undermine the relationships that you build along the way. And so the more that I'm becoming intentional about my relationships, or the more that I have been separated from, maybe what kept me comfortable, is the more that I was able to open up and realize, like, hey, this might not feel like what you thought it would feel. This might be a little more uncomfortable than what you're used to dealing with. But in your power and in your control, what are you handling right now? Are you at the best of your ability being present and making sure that everybody that you meet, that everyone that you talk to, that you're being intentional about it? Or how do you balance the discomfort that comes with missing people, but also being present where you are, And so for me, I had to just change my mentality, It used to be a time where I was able to shut down all emotion and not feel it. And then there was a time where, going and talking and just having different mentors and having, going to counselors and things of that sort, they help you bring those emotions out. So sometimes you feel like there's the extremities, like I'm going to shut down and not feel anything, or now I'm going to feel everything and I'm just going to be like, woe is me. But then you have to find the balance and say, okay, yes, my feelings are valid, but right now let's be solution minded. Like, what can I do right now? And so I guess when sharing this with my mom, and sorry, I'm looking at my notes, I had to just be open to the reality of what is rather than what was or what could be. And so it's embracing the process, letting go of the past. And when I say letting go of the past, it was interesting because I had a talk with one of my counselors, and she said, technically, if you want to think about it, memories, people who are back home, that's considered the past. And the reason why I say that is because if you think about it, every moment of our life, we are adding experiences to our life that are changing who we are, not only on the biological level, but on the mental level, on the spiritual level. Like, just every day, something you experience changes you. Mm-hmm. So what would happen is I kept comparing myself to the person of the past. Oh, I used to be able to handle this. I used to be able to do this. Mm-hmm. Why can't I do this anymore? But what I had to realize is I needed to be real with who I am right now, and then figure out what do I need. So again, when my friend passed and that was hard, yes, I needed to cling on to all the family that I could because I felt like I was losing someone. I was. But now that I realize that, we're working through it, that's no longer what I need. What I need now is to make sure that I am here and available for those that are put into my trust and for those whose lives are at stake. And so that was something that hit me because I it's so easy for us to compare ourselves to our past or to who we used to be or what we used to be able to do. And all it does is condemn us. You know, it just puts a weight on us where we feel like we were never, ever hold up to the expectations of what we used to do. And I just had to remember, like, I need to embrace who I am right now and what I need right now and allow that to be the fuel that takes me day by day. And so that's one of the hardest things that I have, is reminding myself to stop looking back and to just be realistic with who I am. But I realized that once I started to do that, I felt like a sense of freedom in a way that I've never imagined. And that's because it was no longer holding on to the things that weighed me down, but it's more of like, hey, God put you in this position for a reason. And even if you don't know what step it is, do your research. And again, research, background knowledge, whatever the case is, whatever your job is going to look specific to you, because, you know, progress looks specific to you. Goals look specific to you. So you just have to figure out, okay, where I am right now, what can I do to still make an impact, to still contribute? And so basically, all of that led to me just having the word intentionality as my motto for the year. So last year and including this year, intentionality was a big word that I was using, because I felt that a lot of us, sometimes it's so easy to go with the flow, especially when you're just kind of like following a system of school. Like, you go with the flow and you never truly stop and say, but is this really what I want to do? Is this what my heart is passionate about? Because think about it. If I wasn't passionate about my students, there's no way that I would be in a classroom, right? Because one, y'all know teachers don't get paid enough, okay? We get, I told my kids, we get told money, okay? So y'all know we don't get paid enough. And with a lot of the different factors that are influencing children's lives, it's becoming a harder job. We're taking on the role of parents for those who fail to do so. And so I'm saying that to say that for me, intentionality was such a big word, because I felt as though in order for me to get to where I need to be, whether it's me just pursuing my personal talents, whether it's me mentoring, whether it's me helping others along the way, I have to make sure that everything I do is intentional. What I eat is intentional. Why? Because diet is important. If you know certain things running your family, pick the salt down. That's just one thing. Secondly, I mean, if I want to be intentional about making sure that I am in the best mind state, get more sleep. Be available for your children. So just intentionality in who I talk to, who I converse with, who I hang out with. And because of that, I've been able to put that in my classroom. Again, I'm an English teacher, and the one thing I love about that is there's always a reading or writing component in anything you want to talk about. So I've been really big on whether it's the 7 habits of highly effective teens, but for this year, I've been big on impact, contribution, legacy, and intentionality. So when it came around to Black History Month, I felt very, I felt challenged. Last year was my first year of teaching, and February came so fast that by the time it was there, I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm doing wrong. I didn't even get to really show, Black History Month. But one thing that my advisor from ORU reminded me of is sometimes we can get so boggled down in the ideas, the big picture, that we forget to go to the foundation. And so when this year came around, I said, okay, I want the foundation to be the why behind Black History Month. And so even though I have students from all different demographics in my classroom, I decided that I was going to take on a different spin to Black History Month this year. And so what I did is our guiding questions were, what impact are you having on others? What contribution are you making to society? And then what legacy are you leaving? Because if there's one thing that I've realized with this generation of children that I'm raising up, a lot of them are catching on to trends or doing things that they see everyone else do that may be popular. But if you were to ask them why, a lot of them wouldn't even know why. And what I was trying to let them know is that, yes, right now you can be going with the flow and you're just thinking of the right now. But every action you make, every decision you make right now is the history that your peers in the future, the generations after you, are going to have to learn. So if you look at it that way, can you say that you are living your life without any regrets? And for a lot of them, that's a scary thing to think about, so they don't want to think about it. There's a lot of students that they're like, no, I just live for the right now. I'm not going to worry about the future. And that's probably because they are scared of that, which is understandable. So the one thing that I've definitely really been focusing on is, can you say that you are being intentional in everything that you do and say right now? And of course, I'll pair different texts, different letters, different videos so that they understand the importance of just small acts or small decisions here and there. But what I wanted to show them is that making your impact doesn't have to be something far beyond you or bigger. It can be, what are you passionate about that's different, that can contribute to the world? So I decided it actually started with me thinking of like a list of 5 people who I knew. And since it was around Black History Month, I wanted it to be African-American individuals. So at first I thought of 5, and then next, my list went on, and it went on to like 17, 18, 19. And my vision behind this was showing them like, hey, I can show you a list of individuals who are all under about 28, who are making an impact in their society in different ways. These may not be people whose names that you have heard, but within their community, they're still deciding that their passion cannot be left within them, that they have to continue to pour that out in order to give the world the color that it needs, and so I decided to pretty much contact people, whether it was from college, university, high school, people that I've grown up with in church, and ask them to share their stories, because I wanted my students to understand that most of the time, whenever you hear Black History Month facts, a lot of it can just be like, oh, okay, yeah, Rosa Parks. Oh, okay, yeah, Malcolm X. It can be kind of diluted after a while or become cliche. And I wanted them to be able to bridge the gap of the history from the past and the history in the making, and let them understand that she's not only important because of what she did here and then, but her mentality behind it, her heart posture, her intentions behind it, and allow them to see that, yes, you may think it's so far and so bigger than what you could ever do, but I want it to go back to the smaller parts of you. What do you feel you're passionate about? You like video games? You like to be doing computer engineering? Let's look to see how we can get you motivated about that and continue to do that throughout your life. And so I was able to find them friends who worked for like Microsoft, who worked for Snapchat, social medias that they're actually involved in, or they're actually are willing to hear about. I had friends who are into like social political justice, a friend that is a firefighter, people who are into fashion design, photography. So it was my goal to show them that, hey, making a small contribution or impact doesn't have to be you had a march that went from Alabama to, and I'm not saying that those were not monumental by any means, but I wanted them to understand that this can also relate to you right here and right now. And so it was interesting to see how, the activity played out. So for the 15 individuals or the 17 individuals that I asked for information, they had to provide for me their bio, their why, like why are they doing what they're doing, and any words of encouragement. And I made up a PowerPoint presentation. Every student got to read a different bio and present it to the class. And it was beautiful because a lot of the people that, I asked, thankfully, they told their true story. They were really transparent with the students. Like there was one who shared that after the passing of his father, it was very hard for him. And he really didn't know kind of like which direction to go to. He saw himself struggling in school, failing grades, just kind of doing whatever because he kind of felt that hurt, that loss, that pain. And for a lot of my students, that resonated with them. But literally he said, and I love it, it was really blunt. He just said he had two options: to either allow his life to kind of go down the drain or to decide to actually do something. And I love it because a lot of my kids, honestly, sometimes they do things when they're bored and it's never good things. Or they do things where they're hurting and bored, which is even worse. And so for him, he was straight up and he told them, I had two options. And he decided to actually pit his life towards service, whether it was within the firefighting area or military. He decided to pit his life towards service because of someone that had already inspired him. And so the great thing that happened with this activity is my students, I feel like they were able to get away knowing that, impact can be small. It can just be you doing an act of kindness on a daily basis that can inspire somebody else to, whether it's to smile, that can inspire somebody else to do other kind acts, kind of like paying it forward, but to just let them know that it doesn't have to be something that's far bigger than them. But if we all were to adopt that idea of impact, that maybe as the more we're intentional about it, the better citizens that we'll have. I mean, I'm not really sure the word to use, but I think that's, kind of the way it is. So I would just say that for me, one thing that I love about this journey that I'm going through is I'm very reflective, which means I'm always thinking about, okay, well, what could I have done better? Or how are you? Or, what are different parts of you that you continue to grow and improve? And I just realized that, progress looks different for everyone, and it is going to be different for everyone. And so as long as I continue to stay on my path, not focused on anybody else, because that's how you get distractions, I feel like, there's a grace that comes with it. So every day that I'm in my classroom, I just have to tell myself, when you go visit home, that's good, but when you're here, you're here. And as hard as that can be, and I don't want it to sound cliche, but I really just had to change my mentality and just say, be present in your purpose. And yes, you may not have known what your purpose is, but for right now, it is to advocate for students. It is to be that voice, be that heart for students that have felt unacknowledged for majority of their life. And because of that, I feel like it's given me a greater weight and greater responsibility, and it's allowed me to truly actually be holistically there for them.
Wow. Thank you. So I'm going to ask her a few questions, and if you do have questions that you want to ask her about her journey, or maybe you are a young adult and in a situation, just feel free to post your question, or you could send it later. But you mentioned ORU, you attended ORU, but not many people know what ORU stands for. What is ORU?
Oral Roberts University in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And we actually do have more degrees than just theology, because I know a lot of people think that. But the reason why I really like the ORU is because we focused on building the whole person, mind, body, and spirit, especially body. We do a lot of physical activity. Anyways, that's a whole long story. But I like that because it shows you that as you're progressing in life, it's more than just your mind. It's your body, your health, your diet, and it's also your spirit, the nourishment that you need, your soul nourishment.
Great. So it's a Christian college, but it doesn't only teach us things about God, but it's holistic. Alrighty. So, and I want to share this because it's amazing. As many of you know that I'm my mentor, one of my mentors. One of my mentors is it's John Maxwell, and so I have classes where I teach and share. So I invited my daughter to join one of my classes. It's called the 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. And one of the things that we stressed on is being intentional about what you do. So I invited her, but because of her busy workload, she couldn't make it to the class. So it's amazing that when she started sharing with me what she's doing, she kept saying in her prayer closet, she said the Lord ministered to her about being intentional. And the things that she was sharing with her children are the same things that I was sharing with the people in my group, in my workshop, and it's amazing. And so here is it, one part of the world I'm sharing with adults, and there she is. And this is just to show us how important it is to God for us not to just have a life to go about doing what we're doing, but to be intentional. Regardless of what may come your way, you would not let that distract you. And being intentional is so powerful because it allows you, first of all, when you get to know your purpose, to walk in that purpose, because we live in a life, things will happen, disappointments will come. As she said, her friend passed. And so in that time, being away from home, and she's missing her loved one, missed her friend, she had to be intentional. So that was so powerful to me, the way God worked through her. Another thing I want you to share, and one of the things that I was amazed at, as she said, she teaches at alternative school. So I asked her to explain to me, and so she was talking. And so can you tell us all, from what age you minister, you teach?
Oh, okay.
It's never
so at Union Alternative in Tulsa, Oklahoma, it's a high school, and we pretty much have like a traditional setting because my students are with me for about 3 hours for our main course, and I have 9th through 12th all in one class. So the youngest I've had is 14, the oldest I've had is 20. And so I love it though, because as a teacher, it challenges you to always be on your toes, differentiated instruction, making sure that you're meeting the level of every student. And because our max is only 18, it is a smaller class size in comparison to the high school, the bigger high school, that's about 25 to 30, maybe even 35. So I feel like that gives our students enough one-on-one instruction that they can really benefit from us, and we're able to really get to know our students because we have the time to do so.
Okay, so you have to have a lesson plan where you cater for the 14-year-old, the 15-year-old, the 19, the 20, and the 22.
Yeah. So, it's differentiated as far as, levels, because, of course, you can't do it depending on grade. You'll have a 9th grader that can read at a higher level than an 11th grader. You never know. But it's basically just making sure that you're challenging them at the level they're at. And it takes time to get to know them as they, produce work to see, okay, this is where you are, this is where we can be. And the good thing about English is it's really easy to kind of differentiate it because you can give them the same prompt, but they'll probably respond at different levels. So, yes, it can be challenging sometimes because some people are used to just, I only want 9th grade or only I want 10th grade. But I love the fact that my classroom is really based on discussions. And I want my students to understand that more than likely outside of this classroom, you're probably not going to be able to discuss some of the social or current events that you see, or some of these ideas that are popping in your head, but maybe around you, no one talks about it. So let's allow the classroom to be a safe place for you to have these open discussions, for you to learn from others your age or older or younger, or for the younger ones to learn what it looks like to kind of grow and be mature. So I feel like I love it because they can all lean on each other and learn from each other.
Great. We have a question from Mr. Campbell. How do you deal with the shy youth that's scared to speak?
Okay, so thank you for that question, because a lot of my students are dealing with the whole, anxiety or social interactions or talking with people. And for me, in my experience, what has worked best is as I continue to build a relationship with that student, I kind of scaffold it. And by that, I mean, the first step is turn to your partner and talk. Let's do that maybe once or twice. Second step is, okay, we're going to have small mini class discussions. You're going to be able to tell your answer out to me. And then maybe the third step, I'll take it in, okay, now you have to present to the class. So I think the way that I do it is the more you continue to build relationships with some of these students and the more you invest into them, they become comfortable with you. And before you know it, the classroom environment is set up to where they feel safe and they're able to maybe talk out in front of people that they normally wouldn't. And so I always take the gentle approach because I'm never going to be one to force somebody. I hated in school when, teachers kind of did certain things because I guess they thought they were supposed to, or they felt like it was going to train people up. But if someone is actually struggling at that level, you need to work with them. You need to make it individualized for them. So what one student is going to be able to do, another student may not. So for me, when they're shy, I definitely take kind of like a couple of jabs at it. But then I also have to be okay with, hey, if the most that they did was able to talk to a partner, that's progress. We can't rush it. Maybe with the next teacher, as I send them over, I can say, hey, this is where we kind of got with her. Try to work on that a little more with her. So I have to be okay knowing that it's not my power to change someone. I can influence that through like motivation and through our relationship. But at the end of the day, knowing that progress is going to look different for every kid.
Okay. So you mentioned about not forcing individuals to participate. So looking back, you mentioned something about your school. That back when you were in middle school or maybe elementary or high school, what impacts you the most in being the individual you are today? Or what type of teaching, should I put it that way? Was there one teacher or principal that stood out, and why? Even maybe in a youth group at church, what stood out? Because there's some young people don't understand them, and sometimes the older adults, they've been trained a certain way, and so we go at young people in a certain way thinking this is the way because we were trained that way. What do you find is a positive approach, or what helped you, and what you find? You could give us an example of a positive approach and a negative approach.
Yeah. Well, I think it is funny because, of course, when you're in high school or in middle school, you see people that in the moment you maybe can't define how they're impacting you, but then as you look back at it, you're like, oh, wow. So I had a teacher named Madame Abahosen. She was my prof de français, so my French teacher, and she was super, super hard. And I say that as in high school, if ever you spoke a lick of English, you got a 0 for that day. So I was quiet. While I was learning, I was quiet because I was still shy. Yeah, I was shy. And I think during that time, of course, you're still trying to figure out who you are, just the regular high school experiences. But she was always so caring and kind, even though she was strict. And I think I love that about her because we kind of called her the mother of, our class, because she cared for us even outside of class, like the personal conversation we would have. But in class, whenever she was strict or disciplined, it was never personal. It was because she expected us to reach that area. And I think because of that, I was able to see the balance of caring, but still like high expectations. And I had to realize that, okay, so she's showing how you can be both. You can still acknowledge your students' feelings and be there for them, but that doesn't mean that you just kind of throw the towel in. You're allowing them to reach an expectation that that they can, and she took us there. She nurtured us through it. So that was a teacher that really helped me. But outside of that, I think the best educators have to be the people who spent more time listening rather than talking. People who were not quick to say, oh, I understand, I've been there, rather than just, okay, well, how was your day? How did you feel about it? And I think that has been the best approach with my students, is allowing them to understand that every time they see me, I don't even care about the report that you had with another teacher. Why? Because we're starting a fresh, clean slate. That has nothing to do with me and you. And I think having that approach, they've realized that, oh, I don't have to be that title, that lazy kid, that, what is the word I'm looking for? That behavioral kid, or that kid that's, they start off with a fresh slate and they start off with just their name. Because I know in a lot of educators, they've always told me, be careful who you talk with, because sometimes teachers like to give you heads up on certain kids. Now, of course, if there is a child with certain disabilities, we do need to know ahead of time, of course. But other than that, if that's just your personal opinion or how they have, represented themselves in your classroom, keep that to yourself. And that's just the attitude that I tend to have, because, I feel as though if you already go in with a bit of prejudice, you're going to accidentally treat them at that level. And you're not going to expect higher from them, whether it's just by behavior or by attitude. And so for me, I felt like the best educators were people who allowed each individual to be themselves and to show them respect for the level they were at.
Okay, so as you respect that child, that young adult, that individual, they'll be able to respect you and listen and have that desire to learn. That's a big thing.
And I think it just all goes back to, are you doing your best to pretty much facilitate this learning environment for the student? Mm-hmm. Are you doing your best to make sure that this is about them and not about you? Because, a lot of teachers can get into the classroom and think, okay, this is about me exerting my power, my authority. No, it's not. You don't always want it to be a power struggle. You kind of have to know which things to fight. But it's more of, right now, am I doing my best to make sure that I am accommodating you? And that's why, I say it's hard, because you have to have that servant heart. You have to make sure you say that, throughout all of this, I am here for you. Even if you're being rude, I am here for you. Even if you're having an attitude right now and I haven't given you any attitude, I am here for you. There's so many times where a lot of students, I can tell that the way that they've talked to people in their life, they're not used to people talking to them respectfully. So the first thing they want to do is pop off or have an attitude. Okay. And at that moment, I say, okay, I understand that you might be feeling, this way. How about when you calm down a little bit, we can have this conversation. Other than that, let me know what else I can do to help you. And even that right there, they're looking at me like, girl, are you crazy? Like, I just almost cussed you out, and now you're asking me what else can I do for you? And I mean, that's just, every day that I go into work, I'm like, Lord, give me your love, your joy, your peace, your patience, your kindness, your goodness, your faithfulness, your gentleness, your self-control. And I say that all the time, because I know that in order for me to really be there for them, I can't act out of my flesh as easy as it can be. I have to be there, acting out of those fruits of the Spirit. So I don't know. I just think it's just about paying attention to who you are encountering, and about taking that step back, getting out of your personal feelings in your flesh, and figuring out, what do they need? How can I help them?
That's powerful, because here I'm hearing, because there are many people, or these children, they'll come into school with things in their minds, as you said, because they were treated a certain way. And just you being calm and letting them know that you care. So here, as parents, if the parents are listening, one of the things I'm hearing here, first of all, yes, your child may have done something in the past, but we have to come to the place where we allow that to be in the past, and today's a new day. So I'm going to come to you today with a new mindset, letting you know that I trust you, even though in the back of your mind you may say, she did this or she did that so many times, because with you letting that child know, I'm here for you, regardless of what happened in the past, that would encourage that child to do better. So one of the things that I'm hearing in, and it's so important, being ready and willing to forget about the past. And the way we speak to that child, as you said, because she came over in a loving way and said, regardless of what you say, I'm here for you. And that's what we should do as parents also. I know some of you are, but sometimes I know it's trying. Regardless of what may happen, what a child may have done in the past, I'm here for you. Beautiful. If you have any questions, you could also share with us. Any other thing you want to share? Let's see, the church and your youth group. Was there anything that stood out, any individual, or even in elementary school? Was there any individual in your elementary school, principal, teachers?
Well, I mean, I know from elementary, I had a principal, Miss Harrison, and the funny thing about it is, again, like, when you're young, sometimes you're just like living life. You're like, yeah, this is cool, I'm having fun. But then when you look back at it, you're like, whoa, that principal did a lot. Like, she knew everyone's name. She went around the classroom and got involved. And again, what people, and I think the reason why I have such a heart for my students is because people think that sometimes the only problems that people can go through are maybe abuse or, drugs or violence. But sometimes they forget people who go through, like, families who have terminal illnesses, or parents who are dealing with immigration statuses and have to be deported. There's kids who have to literally raise, like, their 5 younger siblings because they have to. And so what I'm saying is, there's so many different factors that can impact or that can influence a child's upbringing that sometimes you can never know. And I feel like for me, during times that, maybe our family was going through different things, or during times that we were all struggling, we wear it differently. And so thankfully, there were certain teachers that allowed you to forget those things and have you come to a place that was fun and that was peaceful. A classroom that really distracted you from maybe all of the issues that you felt like you were facing during that time. And so between, like, Ms. Harrison or even like Mr. Sam at church, there were always certain individuals that spent more time talking with you, being realistic about the world we live in now, but giving you options so that you can, see what consequences can happen, versus telling you what you should or shouldn't do. They're coming to you with a heart that shows that, even if I have been here before, yes, it's going to be different for you, but I just want you to understand that you have options, and these are the lessons I've learned. So let me just tell this to you so that you can have these tools and figure out where you want to go from it. Okay. And that's such a loving approach, rather than the do's versus don'ts, because do's versus don'ts, we already kind of have a rebellious nature at who we are. So it's like we're just going to automatically not want to listen. But I mean, that's what I would say.
Okay. So Miss Harrison, by the way, that's the principal. She was the principal of Laburnum Elementary School, a very great woman. Okay, Mr. Campbell says, I'm curious, who is her role model? Who's your role model?
That's such a loaded question. I should have been prepared. I don't know if there's just one. But I mean, I guess if we want to look at role model as in someone who reminds you of the fuel that you have, I would say my mom. I mean, it sounds cliche, but the reason why I say that, you guys have heard her story. For most of my life, she was bedridden with lupus and dealt with arthritis for some time. But I think the biggest thing that my mom's life shows me is that basically, even when you feel like you can't do anything, or even when you can't, there's always some, I don't know, hold on, let me take a pause. I guess what I would say is my mom has shown me what a life of resilience looks like. And resilience on a spiritual level, on a physical level, even on a mental and emotional level. Understanding that a lot of times in life, you're going to, be dealt cards that you may not even know how to play or how to use, but you do what you can with what you have, and you allow God to kind of help you with the strength of that. And the reason why I say that is because there's a lot of times where we want to be in control, but things happen that are outside of our control. And so for people like me, you want to like break down, or you just get frustrated because you're no longer allowed to handle things in the way that you seem fit. And so I think with my mom's story, and with her just always being a person that was just always kind, it helped kind of shape me into who I am right now. And it also helped me to understand that there's more that needs to surface. When I see students, I don't see, oh, he's the one that's always da-da-da. No, I see, okay, so he's probably hurting. Okay, so let's step back. So I feel like between the discernment, between the kindness, between the resilience, those are probably the three things that my mother has definitely showed or displayed, even probably when she didn't think so. And that's helped me throughout my calling or my life. But I would also say, I mean, I have a lot of role models, especially like mentors that I've had at church, or, teachers that I've had. Just people that constantly remind me that if you're passionate about something and that part of you needs to be given away to the world, go for it, go after it. Or even people that show me that you're going to always be in a world full of people that may not be as kind or respectful, or just are operating under the same mentality as you, but don't allow that to dim your light. If anything, just be proud and confident in who you are, and then allow that to maybe influence or to, to impact people along the way. But, yeah.
Well, to God be the glory. I give God all the praise for that, and thank you, my dear. While she was talking, I remembered when she was in high school. Was it middle school? I think it was middle school, mid-high school. One of her friends said, she's the class mother.
Oh, yeah. They always call me the class mom or grandmother.
Because she was so mature for years, and she would always, very sympathetic. Whenever there's a bully in the class, she would try to make sure that the bully her, the one who was being bullied, she spoke to them and tell them, you're not what this person is saying you are. She taught them to stand up for themselves while she would take care of the person who was bullying that person. So I think God she has a special heart. She has a heart of compassion. And I know when she said she wanted to go into the teaching field, I know that was God. And so I want to thank God for her today.
Yeah. So, but I think I have one more thing to say.
Go ahead, dear.
I guess to end it off, I just want to say that as much as, I may seem like I have my life together, I don't all the way, of course. It's a journey, it's a process. And that's just, I feel like if there's anything you got from this talk, I want it to be that progress and process looks different for everyone. The more that you continue to compare yourself to your past you or to others around you, is the more that you won't be able to live to your actual full potential in the present. And I say that because I really felt like once I changed my mindset about who I am or what I was doing, once I allowed myself to be more open about embracing the right now, the freer I felt, and also the more influential I became, and so I just feel like for you, wherever you are, just continue to do your part, continue to figure out what can I do to be better, or if I have these emotions or these feelings, how can I use that to fuel something else? And I feel like the more that we decide to sacrifice some parts of us for the greater good, the better that we'll realize that we were better stewards of our time.
Okay, there's a question. 1 minute to get this question. Okay. As a fellow teacher, you want to read that?
As a fellow teacher, I know there are moments when attitudes escalate in the classroom. What are your strategies to calm yourself down and prepare for the next set of students? Okay, so a daily schedule for me, and I'll just explain that first before I get into that question. I teach English, so from 8:30 to 11:30, they're in my English class. I have them for 3 hours, and we have breaks in between. Then from 11:35 to 12:30-ish, I have a group called Critical Thinking, and that's pretty much kind of like a homeroom, except we do more relational leadership skills and basically building social skills and things of that sort. So basically, whenever there are attitudes that escalate in the classroom, a lot of times and it depends on the situation, but more than likely you have to allow that student to kind of like de-escalate, to calm themselves down before you just approach them. And more than likely it's going to be addressed in a single kind of like outside of the classroom deal, because you never want like an audience in front of you. Of course, having audiences sometimes either escalates it or allows other people to gang up on you, the teacher. So whenever there are attitudes that escalate in my classroom, honestly, I sometimes allow it to be an open discussion time. So if I see there's two students arguing, and again, this is once you've built a relationship with your students. I have to put that in a box and a star and a bunch of things. Once you've built that relationship with the students, there are times where I'm going to say, okay, let's take a pause. What's the issue that we have right now? Okay, so is this an issue that you guys would like to talk about it right now, or would you like to step outside? So, I think I put the responsibility back on them to understand that right now, this attitude may be disrupting our class. What is a better way or a better time that we can deal with this? And I never do it in like I'm putting you on blast kind of way. I do it to where they can accept the responsibility of, okay, well, this is how I feel, and this is what I want to say to him. And so just depending on the student, there's some times where, I just say, once you calm down, we can have a talk. But for the most part, this is kind of a hard question to ask because it really just depends on the relationships you have with the students. Now, if I feel like a situation is going to escalate, thankfully, my classroom is next door to security guard, so all I need to do is really just like tap on his door. But I think for the most part is making sure that in the moment, I don't do anything to further aggravate the student, and that if I am personally annoyed, that I take a breath. And I show that to my students, because if we're going to be role models for them in the classroom, I show that. There are some times where there will be a student that will annoy me, because it happens. And other students will peep that, and they'll look at me, and then I'll just do. And so one student will say, Miss Francois, what are you doing? I said, I am taking a breath. And so they laugh at me, because literally in class, I would say, give me a moment. I'm taking a breath. Okay. And then there are some times where I'm saying, right now, I do not have the right response for you. However, I will be back and we'll discuss this a little later. And that's just the best way to do it, in my opinion, because I know that I can have a temper or that I can get angry. But if I'm going to be preaching to them certain things on how to respond versus react, I got to make sure that I can do the same whenever I'm, displaying that. So hopefully that wasn't too long in my explanation.
Okay, Gabrielle. I hope that answered your question. And even before if you have any more questions, you could post it. We'll be wrapping up in a few minutes. But I remembered, in reference to the individuals, the young adults, your friends that you asked to share, how did it impact your children? Right.
So again, back to the project that I talked about for the Black History Month Legacy Project. I think a good thing about that project is it was beneficial for my friends and peers and colleagues just as much as the students, because I had some friends that when I asked, were like, well, I don't even know how I'm impacted, and as we talked through, they were like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for reminding me why I'm doing what I'm doing, or thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share my heart, because that helped me get to the next place that I needed to be, whether it was mentally or emotionally. And for my students, the reason why they loved it is because whenever I have students a part of my new block, I have them fill out informational papers. And when they told me what they're interested in, I made sure that I found people specific to what they're interested in. And so when I told them that, one student was like, wait, did you write all these bios? I said, no, those individuals actually took their time out of their busy schedules to write up these bios specifically for you. And a lot of them were kind of just like, okay. It was one of those things where they know that, teaching takes time, but they knew that took even more time. So I think it kind of hit them like, oh, so Miss Francois is you're not playing. And that's one good thing about, my students, and that my principal has always told me, is that even when you feel like no one is receiving what you're saying, you having that same energy allows them to know that this is not fake. This is how she is. And so they find it to be more genuine, and they can they can accept it or be more receptive to it. So it was I think it was just a good way to just show people that no matter what your pursuit of dreams are, or no matter what your aspiration is, if you really are trying to show that part of yourself to the world, then consistency, dedication, and just being realistic with your strengths and weaknesses will help you get there.
So they were surprised, and just in a condensed way, what were the reactions? I know they were surprised. They were to them, it was very important to them that these individuals took the time to send in their bios and to share with them their lives.
Yeah.
So what were the responses, other than being surprised from your students? What are the things the other day?
I mean,
they were very grateful.
Yeah, I mean, they enjoyed it. They had fun. They asked questions. And it's great because even for a classmate that I went to high school with, right now he's like a designer for Snapchat, and he works on these different programming. And so he'll say, hey, I've been working on this. Have them try it out. And because they're always on Snap, they're like, what? And so they're like, yeah. And so I think for them, it was super exciting because they got to see that, like, this can be real. You know, like the why behind, okay, well, what do I like to do? And this can actually be turned into like a career. You know, it's one of those things where they're just not hearing facts left and right, or they're not hearing you can be whatever you want to be, but they're actually seeing examples, like real world examples. And for them, they're always fascinated about my life in general. You know, just teachers' lives. Sometimes they forget that teachers are like real people. So even though I'm young, a lot of times they're just like, oh, wait, you have friends? You go, you know, like sometimes it's just weird for them, but I think it was good to see that I had a personal connection with literally majority of the people. Okay. So I just let them know, like, right now, think about what it would feel like if everyone you grew up with all started to succeed in their own way. And the weight of understanding that, you know, started from the bottom, but we're here kind of thing. Or, you know, the fact that even if all of y'all grew up in the hood, there might be a way out. You know, that sounds really stereotypical, but, you know, depending on the group of people you're dealing with, showing them that these are all people that I've known from different years, and not everyone was, you know, spoon-fed. None of these people just kind of had things given to them. But to show them that it is possible that you and other people you know can actually pursue goals and accomplish these achievements, you know? Right. And so that was one of the biggest things that I think they were able to see, because I was really emotional as I was talking about everyone, because everyone had their own different story, and, you know, I've known them for years, so I think it was good for them to see another part of my life.
And as you say, you know, for the Black History Month is to show them that, yes, we have so many great people in the past, but each of us make a history for those in the future. Yeah. So looking at these individuals in their age group, they are right now making a future. I mean, making history by their lives and what they've done. Yeah. And that's powerful. So Lorissa shared with me the names of the individual, and I mean, as she mentioned about making that sacrifice to impact the life of someone. And as she said, our friends and colleagues that she asked to share, many of them thought they had nothing that could affect someone's life. But today we're learning each of these individuals affected someone in the classroom, and they saw that regardless of where they came from or where they are, where they're going, they could make such a big difference. And so today I want to say thank you. Do you mind calling the names of those individuals?
There's a lot of names.
There's a lot of names. Okay.
I have it on a post.
But all of you, yes, I'm going to share that post with you, with the individuals, what they do. I looked at it, and I'm telling you, there were just tears of joy coming down. I was so proud of all these individuals and all of you guys. I don't remember your names, but you know yourselves, who contributed to the project that Lorissa did for her class. They've blessed those children, they've blessed me. And you took that time, you made the sacrifice, because it takes time putting things together. And I want to bless you guys today, because you're all great achievers. You have great things in the future. And some of you may not know, but I am a John Maxwell certified trainer, teacher, coach, and I do offer classes. And so to you individuals who took the time, I want to offer you a compliment, just to say thank you for reaching out. Okay, this is so much. I love it. Okay, great. Thank you for joining us. But those individuals that shared, our friends, I want to offer you guys all a complimentary 8-week class. You guys are going to get together and decide when you want it to be done. It's going to be done on a conference line. So anybody from any part of the country, they could call in or anytime they were. So I just want to say thank you on behalf of us, the older generation. Thank you all for sharing, all of you guys that shared for Lorissa's legacy project. Thank you. I just want to offer this class you complimentary. It speaks about the 15 invaluable laws of growth. And I'm telling you, you can enjoy it. I mean, not that I'm teaching it, but the content from that book. It was written by John Maxwell. It's an 8-week class, 90 minutes. We do 2 chapters and it's powerful. And as you're growing, I know this is going to help you in your business, in whatever area of field of work you're in. And so if you visit the website, it's newseasongl.com. You will go there and register, and I'll give Lorissa all the information. She sent it to you. You guys would come together and tell me when you would like this class to happen. But I just want to say thank you and bless you with that. You don't have to pay me. This is my way of saying thank you, because as John Maxwell said, and I agree with him, we do not stop learning. We grow until the Lord is ready to take us home. So we should have that desire to grow. And as you continue in life, I know God has great things in store for you. You guys are going to do well. And so this is my little contribution just to say thank you for the sacrifice you made in sharing and blessing the lives of those students. So thank you all again for joining us this morning. And God is good. And I hope this has helped us in some way. As a parent, it has helped me. One of the things that I've learned, children would mess up. We all do. Which one of us adults has not messed up? We know what to do with strive, but we would mess up. But let's try to put that in the past. And as we get up a new morning, it's a new day. Let's begin afresh. Whatever situation may be going on in your home with your child, with your nephew, your niece. Yes, they may be messing up big time, but let's not try to bring that up and make them feel judgmental. We need to reach out to them in love with the wisdom of God. Encourage them. Look for the good things in their lives. Letting them know, regardless of what they're going through, of all of us, what we're going through, we can stay in our purpose. Anything to close up, my dear? Any last comments?
I guess I would just say that as we continue to go about our day-by-day schedules, to just make sure that we're remembering what impact do we have on others, how are we contributing to society, and then what legacy are you leaving behind for those?
And in doing that, we have to be intentional.
And
both present in our purpose and intentional. So today as you go out, remember, I would be intentional about, and you list it all. So thank you all for joining us. It's been a great pleasure. And would you guys love to have her back? Let me know. When she's in town again, I'm going to just scoop her on. So thank you for being here. And I want to thank you, my daughter, for getting up. She traveled yesterday and for getting up early to be on. We want to thank her. I appreciate it. Don't want to take you for granted. And God bless you even as you continue your journey in your purpose. Stay focused. Thank you guys again. Have a blessed day. And as you go out, give someone a compliment. You do not know what that individual is going through. And your compliment, your word of encouragement may make a big difference in their lives, will make their day. Thanks again. Be blessed. And here, tomorrow I'll be back. Normally on Wednesdays, Brother Sean and myself, I share to the women, and Brother Sean shared to the men. However, Brother Sean is he's fighting some physical discomfort, so we'll be praying for him. He won't be on tomorrow, but I'll be on tomorrow sharing to men and women. So see you tomorrow at 7 a.m. Well, Brother Sean normally comes on. I normally do it at 7 because Brother Sean comes on, but seeing that he wouldn't be on, I'll make it a little late. Tomorrow we'll be at 8 a.m. for you guys. All right, so be blessed. Have a great day, and see you tomorrow. Thank you all. Take care. Bye.